Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sakina. Today, or this week, we're going to do things a little bit differently, change it up a titch. Normally, we do wise words to ponder. This week, we're going to do something called Into the Unknown. And what this means is that I'm going to be sharing a story each day with you about time travel. And the stories are meant to be true stories. They were given to me years back when I had a website called Night Watchman Chronicles that ran from 2004 to 2017. This was one of the subject matters that I would receive stories on. So I've chosen 5 of them, one for each day of this week, and I am going to use the Ghost Tarot, which is what I just did a walkthrough on most recently, to have Sakina share information about the story I share with you. So a little bit different, but something that is kind of interesting, I think. At least I hope you think so. So the first story is called A Drive Through Time, and it's by DC. I'm not giving names. And the story goes like this. Many years ago, I was hurrying home from work one brisk afternoon in late spring when I came to a stop at a traffic light in the center of Andover, Massachusetts. Others were busy finishing up their day as they passed me on the sidewalks and waiting, as I was, at the traffic light, recapping their day and anxious to return home to their loved ones. I always enjoyed Andover, with its great monument standing like royalty in the very center of the street and its old architecture encircling the square. I always smiled at the greatness of it. No cookie-cutter stuff here, but buildings with thought, culture, and always beauty. While sitting there, I glanced down at the radio to check the time, and as my eyes traveled back to the windshield, something surprising occurred. All that sat in front of me changed suddenly. The monument was still there, and some of the beautiful old buildings, but the paved road was replaced. I could see and smell the dust rising from the earth as people in vintage clothing scurried by. As I stared in disbelief, I could hear the clopping sound of horses' hooves pounding against the dry earth, and as I watched in amazement, a black buggy, being led by a horse, brushed past in front of me. I saw his coat glistening in the sun, heard him snort. I could hear the feminine voice of a woman as she chattered to her husband in the carriage. People were passing along the street in century-past garments, long cotton dresses, shuffling as they strolled through the dusty streets with the sun shining down brightly upon them. A loud noise startled me, a horn honking from the vehicle behind me. The light had changed. As fast as this walk through time had appeared, it disappeared. I was so shocked I was frozen in that very spot. Only the honking of annoyed motorists behind me brought me to continue on. The rest of my drive home, I was in a cloud. I couldn't believe what I had just seen, nor was I sure it had really happened. How would I tell this story, or would I? Who would believe it? So I read this story out loud, and then I pulled cards from Sakina, shuffling as always, and she would throw out the jumpers, as we do. So let's see what the cards are. We have the World. And the Nine of Wands. And the Four of Cups. So with the World, I think Sakina is telling us here that everything is connected. And sometimes, as we can see this ghost of a person through this world, sometimes we can see outside of the constructs of our physical world, almost as though there's a membrane. And maybe this is the beyond the veil, so to speak. But I'm calling it a membrane this time because beyond the veil gives me the image that we are seeing into the spirit realm. In this case, it's almost as though we're seeing into another dimension. So I'm going to call this a membrane. So somehow or another, the person in this story was able to see through the membrane of the world, of someplace else in the physical world. And Sakina's saying with this card that to see something like this, and it looks like she's kind of answering the question there at the end, where the person was asking the question of, how can I tell anybody about this? Well, Sakina's saying here that it takes courage to, first of all, admit that you've seen what you've seen. And that this person could either react with fear or get really excited that the universe chose to show them for reasons they may never know. And then with the Four of Cups, Sakina's sharing here that not everybody is given the opportunity to see through that membrane outside of the physical world. And sometimes maybe we are all offered that opportunity, at one time or another, but we just don't see it. We're so busy with other things, we just don't see it. And for this person who did see it, maybe it was offered to this person to open their eyes a little bit, or to bring in some kind of a new perspective on their life. And what's going to happen, if this person tells the story, as they obviously did by sending it in to the Night Watchman Chronicles website. If they share the story, the people who are going to accept it or at least consider it are going to be the ones who need to hear it. The ones who have opened their heart up enough to realize that there's something beyond what we know. So I, for one, am very glad that this person shared the story with us. And that is Sakina's take on A Drive Through Time by DC. Take care.